सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। So these two mantras, that are given here. Mantrau cha imau Ishwarasya Shariradi anapekshatam anavarana jnanatam ja darshayatah. So the following two mantras, which we were doing in the last class, these two mantras convey that the Parameshwara does not depend upon the sense organs for knowledge, meaning to be aware. In order to be aware, Bhagavan, Parameshwara does not depend upon any upadhi. Parameshwara does not depend upon the body and the senses. In other words, awareness by nature, it should not be taken like this, God doesn't depend upon, God's awareness does not depend upon the body, but my awareness really depends upon the senses. That's not the interpretation. It's illogical, because awareness, it's like saying, the fire there is hot, but the fire here is not hot. That's fire is hot anyway. Fire by nature is hot. That is its nature. It is not its conditional quality. You see, that the fire is hot is not its conditional quality. That the fire is hot is its unconditional nature. Once we say nature, then it is unconditional. You see, when the water is hot, then it is conditional. Water is hot conditionally. It depends upon the condition. It is conditional to being close to fire. Water is hot, conditional to be close to fire. That's called conditionally hot. Whereas fire is hot by nature. What Vedanta is telling is, you are by nature awareness. Once we use the word by nature, it is a very profound statement. It's a very profound, it has very, very, very important implications. Because nature cannot be lost. The fire can cease to be hot. Why? Because it is not its nature. The water can cease to be hot. Because water is not hot by nature. Water is hot conditionally. Therefore, whatever we are, subject to certain conditions, whatever we are, subject to certain conditions, that we lose. That we lose. You see? But what cannot be lost is nature. What Vedanta is saying is, hey, you are awareness by nature. Oh my God. If we are awareness by nature, if we are free by nature, if we are beginningless, endless by nature, that means that nature cannot be lost, which means it has not been lost. Therefore, the idea that I am limited doesn't amount to the loss of unlimitedness. The idea of being bound does not amount to the loss of freedom. You see? And the idea of blackout, like in deep sleep and death, that idea that I get blacked out, my existence gets blacked out, this idea doesn't amount to loss of awareness. Why? Because the Shruti says you are awareness by nature. Not only because the Shruti says so, Shruti points out in our experience, hey, see, in your own experience, you are always aware. What you are aware of may go, because that is conditionally there. What I am aware of is conditionally there, not unconditionally there. And that one is aware is unconditionally there. And you can take the example of dream, any example. You see, dream is there conditionally. Dream is there as long as it is dreamt. That is called conditionality. Dream is there conditionally because it is there, not unconditionally. What exists unconditionally exists always. Unconditional existence is otherwise called eternity. Unconditional existence is otherwise called eternity. Dream doesn't have unconditional existence. Therefore, it's not eternal. Dream is seen to be there only as dreamt. It is dreamt. As long as it is dreamt, it is there. Like a thought, as long as it is entertained, it is there. An emotion, as long as it is entertained, it is there. It is not unconditionally there. If an emotion is there unconditionally, then I can't handle it. Anger is not unconditional. Anger doesn't exist unconditionally. No emotion exists unconditionally. In fact, thought in general, thought in all its variety, thought doesn't exist unconditionally. Therefore, thought exists conditionally. Therefore, it has resolution. Conditional existence and resolvability are synonymous. Conditionally existed. The conditional existence must be understood like this. Thought is there as long as it is thought of. It is entertained. Bas. As long as I entertain a thought, it is there. As long as I allow the emotion, so long it is there. As long as I dream, the dream is there. Therefore, that the dream is there, the dream's existence is not unconditional, therefore not eternal. And that is the very reason why it resolves. Undreamt, it is not. Dreamt, it looks to be there. Dreamt, looks to be there. Undreamt, is gone. Now dreaming is unconditional. Dreaming itself is not unconditional. Dreaming also now it is not. Anyway, in our experience, that's when we see dream is not eternal because it is not unconditional. Therefore, it resolves. Therefore, conditional existence and non-eternity, resolvability are all synonyms. But one thing is there, that I am aware is not conditional. In fact, anything that is there conditionally is always there in contrast to what is there unconditionally. Unless there is something existent unconditionally, I can't see something conditionally. Meaning something non-eternal cannot be seen without there being the eternal. That is Vedanta. The very perception of the non-eternal presupposes, choicelessly, the existence of the eternal. Thus here the author is saying, awareness by nature is awareness. Awareness is awareness by nature, not awareness is there conditional to the sense organs. The existence of awareness is not conditional to the senses or conditional to the thought. If the existence of awareness were conditional to the senses and the thought, then there should be no awareness experienced when there is no thought. But even the negation of thought is a matter of awareness, experience. And therefore, change of states. Now I am experiencing the waking, now I experience the dream, now I experience freedom from both. Thus the subject experiences himself as free from the waking thought and dream thought. You see, I don't experience the thought. It means I am experiencing myself free from thought. When you break the pot, that particular situation cannot be described as non-experience of the pot. When the body is broken, that situation has to be described as experience of clay free from potness. Thus, the presence of pot, there is no experience of the pot. I don't experience the pot. I don't experience the death of the pot. What we call the experience pertaining to the pot is nothing but the experience pertaining to the clay with an idea that it is a pot. And what we describe as the experience pertaining to the absence of the pot is nothing but the experience pertaining to the clay as free from pot. Thus, Anubhava always pertains to the unnegatable, the clay. Thus, when we experience the world, this cannot be called experience of the world. I am experiencing the world means I am experiencing myself as the perceiver, experiencer of the world. I am experiencing myself as the perceiver, seer of the world. And when there is no thought as in Sushupti, it is neither the non-experience of the world nor experience of the absence of the world, but it is experience pertaining to oneself. It is being free from the world. It is Anubhava of oneself free from the world, free from the thought. Thus, in experiencing the world, there is only Atmanubhava. I am experiencing myself. Like in experiencing the dream, I am only experiencing myself as the dreamer. When there is no dream, I am experiencing myself as free from the dream. This correction must take place. Similarly, when I am experiencing the waking world, I am experiencing myself as the seer of the world. And there is no world. Again we are experiencing ourselves as free from the world. Thus the Anubhava of one's existence is never negated. The Anubhava of one's existence, and that existence is free from all silly labels. One of the definitions of the truth is that it is free from all kinds of silliness. Mahan means what? Free from silliness. I am a form, I am a man, I am born, I am a rich man, I am living in South Delhi. This is all what? In the eyes of Vedanta, these are all silly labels. Why do you use that word silly? For want of a better term. What else? Therefore, when we say I am in the experience of the waking, there is an Atmanubhava. In experiencing the dream, one is experiencing oneself. One is experiencing Ahamasmi as the seer of the dream. Ahamasmi as the seer of the waking. Ahamasmi as free from the thought of both. Thus the Anubhava pertaining to the experience pertaining to the clay is interpreted as the experience pertaining to the presence of pot and absence of pot. Did you hear the whole thing? The experience pertaining to clay is interpreted as experience pertaining to the pot and its absence. Continuity is interpreted in dichotomy. One continuity is interpreted in terms of dichotomy, Dvaitam. This is also Dvaitam. Pot is not, pot is not, is a Dvaitam, which is an interpretation of the unbroken continuity of the clay, which is indeed the Anubhava. In that manner, really there is unbroken Anubhava of the subject, which is interpreted as The presence of the waking state, the absence of the waking state means experience pertaining to the presence of the waking state, the absence of the waking state, the experience pertaining to the presence of the dream state, the absence of the dream state. In this manner, one being is interpreted as both the presence and absence. Presence we call life, absence we call death. What is interpreted as life and death? One eternal being is interpreted as both living and both life and death. Now I am, now I am not, now I am, now I am not is nothing but the same being taken for the body, and as the body, now I am, now there is body, now there is no body. Therefore, when we divide like this, now I see the body, now I see, now there is body, now there is no body. This is called dichotomy. Now there is world, now there is no world. This is called dichotomy. And I take myself to be the body. Therefore, now I am, now I am not. Thus the whole Shastra is saying, hey, awareness is your nature. And awareness, if it is the nature, then it has no negation. Nature has no negation. Therefore, here he says, when we say God's awareness does not depend upon the senses, God's awareness, Ishvara's jnanam, does not depend upon the chakshu, does not depend upon the senses. What we mean is awareness by nature is independent of senses. Awareness has no negation. Awareness is awareness free from all conditionalities. That is said here. These beautiful two mantras are brought in here. Mantrau cha imau Ishvarasya shariradi anapekshatam. God's awareness is independent of the body, etc. Anavarana jnanatam cha. And it's never eclipsed. It has no avarana. Awareness doesn't have avarana. And in order to prove that the awareness has avaranam, to prove that the awareness has avaranam, then I must become aware of avaranam. If we are aware of avaranam, then avaranam doesn't eclipse awareness. Avaranam gets illumined by awareness. Therefore, there is no avaranam on us. Anubhava, experience cannot be eclipsed. Awareness cannot be eclipsed. Therefore, darshayataha, these two mantras show. What are they? Now see, read the mantras, very beautiful mantras. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Natat samaschapyadikascha drishyate. Parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate. Swabhaviki jnana balakriya cha. Tasya Ishwarasya, Parameshwara, meaning the unconditionally obtaining awareness. Karyam karanam cha na vidyate. Natasya karyam, he has no body. See, even when awareness is identified with the body, It doesn't have the body. To be taken for the body is a different situation from being. To be taken for the body is a different situation from being the body. So even it is not the body, even when it is taken for the body, it is not the body. That is its nature. Even when the crystal is taken to be rose, because of the rose flower, the proximity, even when the crystal is taken to be rose in color, the crystal looks rose. Even when I am living with the idea this is rose in color, but ununderstood by myself, unrecognized by myself, well, the crystal continues to be colorless. It is colorless. It looks red because it reflects, the flower casts its color on the crystal. You know, there is a huge, we never really think in terms of appearances and reality. That's why here it says, aware, God doesn't have the body. Okay. Karanam cha vidyate, nor the mind. You can make a small little correction. It's not karanam, it is karanam. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, not karanam cha vidyate. God has no body and no thought. God's existence is not conditional to having a body and having a thought. Meaning, truth's existence is independent of body and thought. That means there is something that exists independent of body and thought, which is totally in contrast to human thinking, jiva's thinking, because we think everything is conditional to body and thought. I am there as a conscious being, conditional to the body and thought. And Bhagavan says here, Ishvara is independent of karyam and karanam cha vidyate. Na tat samascha, and there is nothing equal to God. Number one point that is made is God's existence is independent of body and thought. Which means His being, His existence is independent of body and thought. And His being, knowledge, is independent of body and thought. The second point that is made is natat samascha. There is nothing equal to Him. That means there is no parallel to Him. There is nothing equal to Him. There is nothing bigger than Him. There is nothing smaller than Him. There is nothing other than Him. Natat samascha. There is nothing equal to Him. Abhyadikascha. And there is nothing bigger than Him. Drishyate is experienced. You see, this is something. Drishyate. There is nothing. We don't experience something equal to God. We don't experience something bigger than God. We don't experience something other than God. Na drishyate. Therefore, whatever we are experiencing is only one Ishvara. As I told you, experiencing the world means experiencing oneself. Experiencing dream is experiencing oneself. Non-experience of the world is experience of oneself. The experience also boils down to anubhava. There is no experience pertaining to the world. In fact, experience pertaining to myself reflects, appears as the experience of the world. The thinkers, my experience as myself, as even the thinker, looks as the experience of thought. I entertain a thought. I say I am experiencing the thought. You are not experiencing the thought, you are experiencing yourself as the thinker of the thought. And when the thought resolves again, it is oneself is experiencing oneself as aware of, oneself is experiencing oneself as free from thought. It is Atmanubhava, free from thought. When there is thought, it is Atmanubhava with thought. When there is no thought, it is Atmanubhava, free from thought. Jagrati is Atmanubhava. Dream is Atmanubhava. Sushupti is Atmanubhava. Interpreted as non-anubhava of the Jagrata and Swapna. This unnegatable anubhava is what we call Ishvara. You know, just think about this. If the anubhava pertaining to the world were independent of the anubhava about Atma, listen to it, if my experience pertaining to the world, if my experience pertaining to the world were independent of my experience pertaining to myself, then even I should have the experience of the world independent of. So even when I leave the waking world and go to the dream, there should be anubhava of the dream. There cannot be an experience pertaining to the world without the experience pertaining to oneself, whereas the other way around is true. The reverse is true. Meaning one can have the experience pertaining to oneself without the experience pertaining to the world. That is also within anubhava anyway. It is all evident. Therefore, the Shruti says, hey, we don't have the experience of anything other than God. Why? Because the Atmanubhava alone looks Prapanchanubhava. Atmanubhava alone looks Swapnanubhava. Atmanubhava alone looks freedom from the Jagrata Swapnanubhava. Therefore, the anubhava of the world is anubhava of Ishvara. Anubhava of the absence of the world. Anubhava of Ishvara. Call it anubhava of the absence of the world. Call it negation of the anubhava of the world. It doesn't matter, but whatever you say, but it means what? Anubhava of Atma. Atmanubhava. Like, supposing a person leaves the earth and goes to heaven, what is he experiencing? Atmanubhava. Again I am experiencing again with another perception, another thought, another kind of perception. One perception is replaced by another perception, but Atmanubhava is not replaced. Atmanubhava has no variety. Atmanubhava has no variety. And therefore, there is no anubhava of anything equal to Ishvara, other than Ishvara, greater than Ishvara, smaller than Ishvara. That is why we don't say really there is only one God. Shastra says all that is there is only God. Sarva ekameva advitiyam. Ekameva advitiyam does not mean one God. Ekameva advitiyam means all that is there is only one. Everything boils down to one. Everything boils down to one. Ekameva advitiyam. Ekameva advitiyam does not mean God is one. Ekameva advitiyam means everything is one truth. Acha, the next line you see, Parasya Shaktihi. His Shakti, Ishvara's Shakti, Vividhaiva Shruyate, is heard in many ways. Swabhaviki, and it is its nature, Swabhaviki, it's natural. And what are his two capacities? He said, Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Jnana Kriya and Bala Kriya. That he knows is Swabhaviki, and that he accommodates the universe, that he is the source. Kriya means Srishti. That he is the creator of everything. That he is the source of the entire creation is Swabhaviki. And that he is aware also is Swabhaviki. From Bhagavan's point of view, there is no creation. But if you describe Bhagavan from the world point of view, you have to say that he is the source of the world. There is no other description. I mean, from the wave point of view, you can't say water is something else. From the wave point of view, there is only one choiceless description. Water is source of the wave. This is called Adhyaropa Drishti. It is from the point of view of Nama-rupa. From the point of view of the Nama-rupa, God is the source. And from his own point of view, he is not even source of anything because there is nothing other than him. You take the place of water and look for the wave. You take the place of the wave. You take the place of the water. As the water, if the water looks for a wave, it can't find a wave. Because wherever it is, it alone is. Because that is a notion. Now coming back to the point, the Purva Pakshi is trying to establish that Pradhanam is Jagat Karanam, not Brahman. Then we say, no, Brahman is the Jagat Karanam. Why? Because Brahman only saw and became the source. We say he saw means he is a conscious being. Then the Purva Pakshi says, how can he be conscious without the body and thought? Just as we can't be conscious without the body and thought, similarly God also can't be conscious without the body and the thought. If God can't be conscious without the body and thought, and before the creation there is no body and the thought, you see, even for him to have body and thought, there must be creation. Okay, before the creation we can't think of, there can be body and thought. And without body and thought he can't be conscious, he has to be inert. Therefore your statement that he saw and created can't be justified. Thus Purva Pakshi says consciousness can't be there independent of body and thought. There can't be body, there can't be consciousness, there can't be Chaitanyam without the body and thought, whether it is in my case, your case, or God's case. Even God can't be conscious without the body and thought. In answer to that, we say, no. God is that in the form of consciousness, and consciousness by nature is independent of body and thought. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, is independent of the body. Okay, next mantra I see. Apanipado javano grahita pashyatya chakshuhu sashunotya karnam savetya vedyam najatasyasti vetta tamahuragyam purusham mahantam. You see, apanipada, he has no hands, he has no feet. Pani means hands, pada is feet. Apanipada, he has no, God has no hands and feet. Javanaha, he has no feet, but he is very fast. He is very fast. And he has no pani, he has no hands, but he is all embracing. Everything is in his grasp, but he has no hands. He has no feet, but he is everywhere. I mean, it should be, without having feet, he is all pervasive. Without having any hand, though he has no hands, everything is within his grasp. Grahita. Javanaha means fast, Grahita means the one in whose grasp things are. Pashyati achakshuhu. He is ever the seer, but he has no eyes. Sashunoti akarnaha. He is ever the hearer, but he doesn't have ears. Meaning what? Is being aware. Because to see is to be aware. To hear is to be aware. To think is to be aware. To taste, touch, smell is to be aware. To remember is to be aware. And even to lose memory is to be aware. I mean, see, to think is to be aware. To see, hear, taste, touch, smell, remember, everything means to be aware. And even to lose memory, meaning even to transcend memory, is to be aware, because what we call anubhava pertaining to freedom from memory is also anubhava pertaining to oneself without memory. It is anubhava of oneself free from thought, free from memory. That is Swarupa. That is the Swarupa. Thus this mantra also shows that God being conscious is independent of the body and the senses. Savetyam, saveti vedyam. In fact, God is the one who is aware of everything. It's very beautiful. Saveti vedyam. All that is vedyam is known only by God. Even though you say, I know it, you know it. And when you say, I know it, it means what? I, Mr. Subramanyam knows, I, this body knows, or I, an Indian knows. That individuality, this label, that physicality, biologicality, physiologicality, mentality, this whole thing in one, called the individuality, is looked upon as the knower. Says no. Individuality doesn't know the world. Individuality is known. Body doesn't know. Body is known. Senses don't know. Senses are known. Thought doesn't know. Thought is known. Memory doesn't know. Memory is known. The absence of thought doesn't know. It is known. Thus the definition of God is Saveti Vedyam. The one who is knowing everything is in fact none other than Bhagavan. So even though God is knowing, the one, when we say I know, it is I, the truth, that is knowing. That I, the truth, the knower, is interpreted as I, the label, the knower. See, the I, the truth, is the knower, but I, the truth, is interpreted. Remaining, I, the truth, remains I, the truth. I, the truth, remaining as the I, the truth. The I remaining the truth gets interpreted as I, the label, I, the jiva, I, the body, I, the thought. See? Like I am the way, when the water says, the I, the water remaining water gets interpreted as I, the wave. I is not replaced, I is interpreted. I is not, I doesn't get replaced, nor I replaces anything. I is never replaced. We don't have the anubhava of the I replacing anything. We don't have the anubhava of the I being replaced. If I replaces, it should replace the idam. If I is replaced, it should be replaced by idam. Idam means an object. The I neither replaces anything nor gets replaced. The I, the truth, is being interpreted. I, the knower of everything, is itself interpreted as the same as the label. This is adhyasa. That which is the knower of everything, and to be the knower of everything means to be the experiencer of itself. Therefore, the Atma that is ever the Atma is interpreted as Deha. Therefore, what is being done? Is I being replaced? Does Jivatma replace this Ishvara? No. Distortion doesn't replace reality. Distortion doesn't replace reality. Wave doesn't replace water. Water itself is viewed, is interpreted as a form. Similarly, the body doesn't know. You see, such a thing, Bhagavan says like light and darkness. Shankaracharya says, hey, you and the rest is like light and darkness. You are the light and the rest is all darkness. Meaning, body doesn't know, it is darkness. Senses and thought don't know. They can't be aware of themselves. Body doesn't feel its own existence. Body doesn't feel it. That is why you can burn it, so well. You put the thing on the fire and call the first son and tell him. It goes up in smoke. Why? It doesn't feel its own existence. And when it is reduced to smoke, the ashes don't feel their own existence. Therefore it is what? So when the body can't feel its own existence, how can it feel others' existence? How can it know its others' existence? Therefore it is darkness. Understand what is darkness? That which is not aware is called darkness. This creation is darkness. The source is the light. This creation is darkness. This Nama Rupa is darkness, the source is the light. The body doesn't know. The senses, eyes don't know really. Eyes don't know. Ears don't know. Senses don't know. Even the mind doesn't know. Mind is known. Mind is entertained. Thought is entertained. Thus the one who knows every thought, the one who himself knows the body, there is the same one who knows the body, who knows the senses, who knows the thought, who knows the emotion, who knows the whole world, and who also knows the freedom from it. That is the Veta. That is Ishvara, the all-knowing light, Sarvajna. That is called Sarvajna, the all-knowing. Why? Because he not only knows the presence, he also knows the absence. Knowing the absence means what? Knowing the presence means being itself. And knowing the absence also is being itself. Savetti Vedyam. Very beautifully says, Nacha tasyasti vetta. God knows everything and nothing knows him. There is no one who can know the knower. Meaning, you can know the body, but the body is not aware of you. You are aware of the body, body is not aware of you. You are aware of the elements, elements are not aware of you. We are aware of the sun, sun is not aware of me. Sun is not aware of itself, what to talk of being aware of me? Are you able to follow? The sun doesn't feel itself. Therefore, the source knows the creation, and the creation doesn't know the source. The source knows the creation, creation doesn't know the source. God knows the world, world doesn't. And this particular statement has been interpreted by some Mahashay. Only God knows himself. You and I cannot know. Why? Shruti says. So Shruti is unfolding the nature of God so that you and I can understand God. That it is something the one who always knows, which is not objectified, which is not known. Meaning the elements can't know the subject. The creation can't know the subject. The creation can't know the source. That source is the Ishvara. And we say I. Actually, it means only that. Actually, ununderstood. Experienced as the truth. We remain as the truth. One remains because one can't be otherwise than being aware. One can't remain otherwise than being aware of the waking world, being aware of the body, being aware of the mind, being aware of the dream, being aware of the negation. We can't change our position. We can't change our position. Because this position of being Sarvajna is our nature, and nature can't be changed. Therefore we continue to remain Brahma Vastu with the notion, with the interpretation that I am a form. See, we are being aware and living as the form without discerning between the all-knowing being and a given form. All-knowing being and the given form. And therefore, Nacha tasyasti vete, is it not unfoldment? Truth knows everything and nothing knows the truth. Is a clean unfoldment. What is the truth? That which is aware of everything and that nothing is aware of. Nothing is aware of the truth, truth is aware of everything. Vedyam naja dasyasti veda tamahuhu. Him the sages describe. Agriyam, the origin. Origin means really the truth of everything. Agriyam means what? Before that there is nothing. After that also there is nothing. Agriyam does not mean really in terms of time before origin. In fact, there is nothing before it, there is nothing after it. Why? Because there is no before to it, there is no after to it. And what looks after to it is it. And what is interpreted as after it is it. And what is interpreted as before it by some joker is also it. It is like saying the past is before the present, the future is later than the present. But in fact, the past, which is nothing but really a creation in the present, is looked upon as before. The past, when is the past? The past is before the present. And the future is later than the present. He says, it is the present that is interpreted as past and future, and therefore the past that is the past that is interpreted as past really is not other than the present. The future also is not other than the present. Therefore, there is no before to the present. There is no later than the present. There is no before to the present. There is no later to the present. Present has no before and later. Because the thought of before is rooted in the present. It is the present that is interpreted as past. Otherwise there is no anubhava of past. What is anubhava is now. I am. I am. That is anubhava. And distortion of it is past. I see an object, and that object becomes an object of memory, and I put it in the past, and I put it in the future also. But the past is thought, future also is thought, because it's not anubhava, therefore it is a vikalpa. Anything that is not within the form of anubhava is always in the form of a distortion about the anubhava. Thought and anubhava are not two parallels. They are not two realities. Present is experience. Aham asmi is experience, anubhava. Present is experience. Past is a thought. Past is not anubhava. Because past, when we say past is a thought, what is anubhava? Present. Present is anubhava. When I think of the future is a thought, but what is anubhava? Present. Therefore, thought is rooted in present, the anubhava. Therefore, the vikalpa is rooted in the anubhava. Therefore, there is no before to anubhava. And what is interpreted as before to anubhava is not other than anubhava. What is interpreted as a later than anubhava is not other than anubhava. That is called agriyam. That is called agriyam. The origin of all that is interpreted as past and future also is, that is called agriyam. That which has no before to it, that which has no later to it. Because wave is later than water. The wave, the later than water, is it other than water? The wave, the later than water, is not other than water, and if there is some interpretation which is before water, that is also not other than water. Therefore, tamahur agriyam, that is the agriyam, the origin. Purusham, Purnam, it is Purnam. Purusha can mean that which is taken for the Pura Ushati iti Purusha. But the context we have to see. Going by the context, Purusha means Purna, the full. Because if there is nothing before it, nothing other than it, all that is viewed as before it and later than it are nothing but it. If there is nothing other than it, bigger than it, smaller than it, equal to it, other than it. If there is nothing bigger than it, smaller than it, other than it. Ikshatyadhikaranam says, he says, I will define truth in Vyakaranam. Are you able to follow? This scholar, he says, I can define truth in the form of, with the help of Vyakaranam, grammar. You know what he says? Tarap tamap se free hai. Tarap is a comparative degree. Like dhana taraha, adhika taraha, adhika tamaha. Do you understand, that tarat means comparative degree, tamap is superlative degree. Superlative degree. Like you see, priyaha, priyataraha, priyatamaha. So tara is a pratyaya, is a termination, tarat. Tama is tamap. What is truth? That which is free from tarap and tamap. Bas. Ikshatyadhikaranam says, what is truth? That which is free from tarap and tamap. Meaning there is nothing equal to it, there is nothing bigger than it or smaller than it. They all come under what? Tarap and tamap. Jisme tarap tamap na ho. That is the truth. That is Purusham, Mahantam, and which is unlimited. And therefore, He Pradhanavadi says, don't interpret Pradhanam as the Jagat Karanam. Don't unnecessarily waste your life imagining that matter emanates from matter. You see, if matter were to emerge from matter, now that our inquiry is not ended there. Then again I would say, where from did that matter come? This matter can emerge from that matter, then that matter also being matter should emerge from matter, and that should emerge from matter, then we end up in a regress ad infinitum, which means it is a dosha. Arriving at a conclusion that is inconclusive is a wrong conclusion. Entertaining a thought that is it is not conclusive. That means our jignasa doesn't come to an end. Concluding that matter emerges from matter is not the right conclusion, because that will imply the second matter also should emerge from third matter should emerge from fourth matter, it should be endless. This is what is called an inconclusive conclusion. You make a conclusion which is inconclusive. It is a dosha, it is a flaw. Somewhere you have gone wrong in thinking. That is called dosha. If you arrive at something inconclusive, that means you have gone somewhere wrong in your thinking. This is alarm bell. This is called dosha in Vedanta. It is a dosha. It is like saying, you see, say eyes, the existence of the eyes depends upon the form. And the existence of the form depends upon the eyes. Is there an inconclusive conclusion? Why? Because mutual dependency. Say eyes depend upon forms, and forms depend upon eyes. Is an inconclusive conclusion, because it becomes a vicious cycle. Mutual dependency is an inconclusive conclusion, is a wrong thing, is a dosha. Therefore, where the eyes depend, where the forms depend, that should be independent. That which is where the forms depend, where the eyes depend, that must be independent. Thus, the eyes and forms as one block depends upon the independent, the self, which is not dependent upon eyes and forms. And therefore, it is not that, hey Pradhani, don't conclude Pradhana is Jagat Karana. Why? It is inconclusive. That is why Shankaracharya says, any conclusion that you make about the source of the universe on the basis of logic, leaving out the Shruti, leaving out the subject, leaving out the Anubhava, if you go only by sense perception and sense perception based logic, and any conclusion that you reach has no nishtha, he says. Kutarkasya ka nishtha, he says. The conclusion that is arrived at about the source of the universe, independent of the subject and the Vedanta Shabda Pramanam, The conclusion about the source arrived at through perception, and the perception based logic has no nishtha, meaning it is inconclusive. Meaning you reach nowhere. Any conclusion you make, then you have the same jignasa continues. That is called inconclusive. Same jignasa continues. Jignasa will be endless. Alright, sir, if the matter came from matter, then my question would be where from that matter came? Where from did that matter come? Oh, that came from another matter. So where from did that matter come? That means what? We haven't reached anywhere. The jignasa continues. It is regress ad infinitum. It is a dosha, flaw. And therefore, leave your ego and look into Shruti, which is Shabda Pramanam, which is meant to talk about our nature, and therefore, the need is not to have a separate identity in this world. Our need is not an identity. To have our own identity is not the need. Because everybody does have his identity. What is it? That I am Deha is the identity. What more do you want? In fact, the Shruti comes and says, hey, this is not your identity. In fact, you are free from this biological identity. And therefore, as long as human beings look for their own empirical identities, each identity is separate from other identity, this problem will always remain. That is not spirituality. That is not a cultural root. The real culture is this, where the scripture comes and says, you are Brahma Vastu, you are the Ishvara, you are the unnegatable conscious being. That is your identity. That is not brought about identity. That is your natural identity. And this physical identity is only an error. And therefore, without coming to this Vedanta Pramanam, Jiva has no way out. He has no way out. What about Americans? There is no America or anything. There is a creation, there are Jivas. You see? There is a creation, there is a source, there is a creation, there are Jivas, there is a Shabda Pramanam. Where is America, India? These are all Kapola Kalpitam. There are Jivas, there is a Srishti, there is a Jagat Karanam, there is a Jagat, there are Jivas. And Jiva requires to hear about himself, about the all-experiencing being. Thus, a Pradhanavadi, forget about Yuva, urge to have another cult. You better listen to Shabda Pramanam. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaja Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Rama.